Those containers are staying right there, Mr. Reynolds. The HOA voted, and you don't get a say. Maybe next time you'll read your notices and respect community decisions.
Let me tell you how those words came back to haunt her. Tuesday morning, 6:30 a.m. I step out my front door with my coffee, ready to head to work, and I freeze. 5 massive shipping containers, each one 40 feet long and bright orange, are stacked across my entire driveway like a steel wall, completely blocking my car. No warning, no discussion, just 5 tons of metal trapping me on my own property. I walk over to the nearest container, still in my work clothes, trying to figure out what the hell is happening. That's when I hear the voice I've come to dread. "Good morning, James." My neighbor, Bethany, our HOA President, is standing on her perfectly manicured lawn in her designer jogging outfit, holding a latte, watching me with the most satisfied smirk I've ever seen. "Oh, didn't you get the notice? The HOA Board voted to store these containers here for our community improvement project. We're partnering with a shipping company. It's all very exciting." "Bethany, you blocked my driveway. I can't get to work." "Well, technically, your driveway extends onto community property, so really, we're just using what's ours. Should have come to the meetings." I stand there, coffee getting cold, staring at this wall of shipping containers while Bethany practically glows with satisfaction. She turns and walks back into her house, leaving me trapped. She thought she'd won. She thought she'd finally put the difficult neighbor in his place. What Bethany didn't know was that in about 8 hours, her entire world was going to collapse. Because the HOA president who just blocked my driveway, she's about to find out I'm her landlord. My name is James Reynolds. I'm 42 years old, and I run Westland Commercial Properties, a mid-sized commercial real estate company I built from the ground up over 15 years. We own about 30 commercial buildings in the metro area, office spaces, retail centers, nothing flashy. I live in Maplewood Heights, a planned community with about 200 homes. Nice neighborhood, good schools, the kind of place where people care about property values and maintaining appearances. And then there's the HOA, the Maplewood Heights Homeowners Association, run by Bethany Morrison and her inner circle like it's their personal fiefdom. Picture a 45-year-old woman who peaked in high school and never got over it. Bethany lives 3 houses down from me in the biggest house on the block. Her husband's a surgeon, and she makes sure everyone knows it. She's got the highlighted blonde hair, the yoga body, the designer everything, and the personality of a parking meter. For the past 18 months, Bethany has made it her personal mission to make my life difficult. It started small, citations for my trash cans being visible from the street by 2 inches, complaints about my lawn being inconsistent with community standards, even though I pay a professional service. Then she escalated. Anonymous complaints to the city claiming my home office was running a commercial business from residential property. Demands that I repaint my front door because the shade of blue was not pre-approved. A formal violation notice because my daughter's basketball hoop was 3 inches over the height limit. That basketball hoop? That was the last thing I bought with my daughter Emma before she left for college. It's not just a hoop, it's a memory. But Bethany didn't care about that. The thing is, I've played by the rules, paid every fine, even the ridiculous ones, shown up to meetings with documentation proving I'm in compliance, been polite even when she's been petty. So, when I woke up Tuesday morning to find 5 shipping containers blocking my driveway, I knew this wasn't just about community improvement. This was personal. I called my office, told them I'd be late, very late. Then I went inside, poured another cup of coffee, and started digging through my files. See, when you run a property management company, you accumulate a lot of paperwork. Leases, tenant agreements, maintenance contracts, insurance documents, mountains of boring bureaucratic paper. But somewhere in those mountains, I remembered seeing something months ago, something I'd filed away and forgotten about. I pull out my laptop and open the rent collection summary for Westland Commercial Properties. We've got 30 buildings, over 100 tenants. I scroll through the list of commercial clients looking for there. Reading from the screen, Maplewood Heights HOA, Office Suite 240, Riverside Commons Building. Monthly rent, $2,200. Lease renewal date, 27 days. I sit back in my chair and just stare at the screen. The Maplewood Heights Homeowners Association, the organization that has spent 18 months making my life miserable, that just blocked my driveway with shipping containers, rents their office space from a building I own. Checking the files, I pull up the full lease agreement. Sure enough, there it is. A 3-year commercial lease signed by Bethany Morrison as HOA President. Rent paid on time every month from the HOA's operating fund. And the lease is up for renewal in less than a month. The HOA Board has no idea. None of them have ever asked who their landlord is. They pay rent to Westland Properties, but they've never connected the dots that Westland Properties is my company. Bethany Morrison, the woman who just smugly informed me that my driveway is community property, has no clue that she's standing on very, very thin ice. I make a few calls. First, my lawyer, Samantha Chen. She specializes in real estate law, and she's going to love this. Second, my property manager, Marcus, asking him to pull every document related to the HOA's lease. It's now 9 a.m. The HOA board meeting is tonight at 7 p.m. at their rented office. I've got 10 hours to prepare. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to threaten. I'm just going to walk into that meeting, state the facts, and watch Bethany's world crumble. But first, I need to figure out how to get my car out of my driveway so I can actually get there. I call the local towing company, explain the situation. The dispatcher sounds amused. Someone blocked your driveway with shipping containers? That's a new one. Practical. They send a truck. It takes 2 hours and $300, but they manage to carefully lift my car over the containers using a flatbed. My neighbors come out to watch the spectacle. Some look sympathetic, others, Bethany's friends, look entertained. I notice Bethany watching from her window, still smiling. She thinks this is hilarious. She thinks she's won. The afternoon I spend at my office, but my mind is racing. Samantha calls me back after reviewing the HOA lease. James, this is actually perfect timing. Their lease is up, which means you have every legal right to choose not to renew. And given their behavior, you'd be well within your rights to cite landlord-tenant conflict as justification. But here's my suggestion. Don't start by threatening non-renewal. Go to the meeting, present the facts, give them a chance to make this right. Document everything. If they refuse, then we have a clear case. Smart, professional, exactly the approach I need. 6:45 p.m. I pull into the parking lot of Riverside Commons, my building, and park in a visitor spot. The HOA office is on the second floor, Suite 240. I walk through the lobby, past the directory board that lists Maplewood Heights HOA as a tenant. Irony noted, I own this building. I've owned it for 6 years, and the HOA has been renting from me for 3 years without ever realizing it. I take the stairs to the second floor. Through the glass door of Suite 240, I can see the board members arriving. Bethany, of course, looking polished and in control. Michael Chen, the vice president, always agreeing with whatever Bethany says. Susan Harper, the secretary, already taking notes. I wait until exactly 7 p.m., then walk in. The conference room has about 15 homeowners scattered in chairs. The board sits at the front table like they're presiding over a corporate merger. "Oh, James, so glad you could make it." Bethany's voice drips with false sweetness. "I know this morning was inconvenient, but we're so excited about this community project." I sit in the back row, open my notebook, and say nothing. Just wait. Bethany calls the meeting to order. Standard HOA business, landscaping contracts, pool maintenance schedules, architectural review approvals. Then she gets to the main event. "Now let's discuss our exciting new partnership," Bethany announces, standing up with a printed presentation. The HOA has partnered with Atlantic Shipping Company to provide temporary storage for their containers. In exchange, we receive $1,500 per month, revenue that will go toward community improvements. Michael jumps in. "This is a significant revenue stream. We've identified several locations within common areas that can accommodate up to 10 containers. 10 containers? They're planning to expand this." Susan adds, "We've already received our first month's payment. The board voted unanimously to approve this partnership at our executive session last week." I raise my hand. Bethany looks annoyed, but calls on me. I have a few questions. First, where exactly do these containers get placed? Second, were property surveys conducted to ensure they're actually on common areas? And third, what happens when they block residents' access to their own property? Bethany's smile tightens. James, the board has thoroughly reviewed all placement locations. Everything is within HOA-managed common areas. If you have concerns about your personal driveway, perhaps you should have attended our planning meetings. I didn't receive notice of any planning meetings, or notice that containers would be placed on my property. Notice was sent to all homeowners 3 weeks ago. If you didn't receive it, that's not the board's responsibility. I close my notebook and stand up, walk slowly to the front of the room, pull out my business card. Simple, professional, just my name and CEO Westland Commercial Properties. Bethany, I want to make sure I understand the situation correctly. The HOA Board voted to place shipping containers on what you claim is common property, without verifying property lines, without proper notice to affected homeowners, and without considering the legal implications. We followed all proper procedures. I place my business card on the table in front of her. Then you won't mind if I ask my legal team to review those procedures. Since I own the building where the HOA rents its office space, I have a vested interest in ensuring my tenants operate lawfully. The room goes completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Bethany picks up my business card, her face going from confused to pale in about 3 seconds. Michael leans over to read the card. Wait, Westland Properties? You own this building? I confirm. I own this building, and according to my records, the Maplewood Heights HOA's lease is up for renewal in 27 days. I'm sure you've already been working on that renewal paperwork, right? Bethany's mouth opens and closes like a fish. The lease is handled by our management company. I continue. Your management company works with my property manager, who works for me. So let me be very clear. I have 5 shipping containers blocking my driveway. You claim they're on common property, but I have serious doubts about that. And until this situation is resolved, I'm going to be very interested in every detail of how this HOA operates. Now, I'm not unreasonable. I'm happy to work with the board to find a solution, but that solution starts with those containers being moved off my property by tomorrow morning. If they're still there by noon, I'll be calling a county surveyor to establish the actual property lines, and my lawyer to discuss whether blocking a resident's driveway constitutes grounds for legal action. I'm also going to be reviewing your lease very carefully, because tenants who create legal liabilities for their landlord tend to find their leases aren't renewed. I'll see you all tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your meeting. I walk out of that conference room in complete silence. As the door closes behind me, I hear the explosion of voices, Bethany's shrill panic, Michael's angry questions, homeowners demanding answers. In the parking lot, I sit in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. My phone buzzes. It's my property manager, Marcus. Boss, I just got a panicked call from the HOA's management company about their lease renewal. What's going on? I text back. Long story. Don't renew anything yet. We'll discuss tomorrow. I drive home past the shipping containers still blocking my driveway, park on the street again. But now I'm smiling. See, Bethany made a crucial mistake. She assumed that because I'm just a homeowner in her neighborhood, I'm powerless against the HOA board. She never bothered to learn what I do for a living, never wondered if maybe, just maybe, the quiet guy 3 doors down might have resources she didn't know about. I'm not going to be vindictive, I'm not going to abuse my power, but I am going to make sure the HOA understands that actions have consequences. Next morning. Wednesday morning, 6:30 a.m. I step outside with my coffee, fully expecting to see 5 orange shipping containers still blocking my driveway. Surprise, they're gone. Every single one. My driveway is completely clear. I look down the street. The containers have been moved to an empty lot 3 blocks away. Actual community property that doesn't block anyone's access. Bethany must have called Atlantic Shipping at 6 a.m. and demanded they move everything immediately. Smart move, but it doesn't fix everything. My lawyer Samantha calls at 8 a.m. James, I just got the most interesting voicemail from Bethany Morrison's attorney. They want to schedule a meeting to discuss a mutually beneficial resolution to recent misunderstandings. Misunderstandings, right. That's what we're calling it. Look, you've got the leverage here. The question is, what do you actually want? Do you want them out of your building? Do you want an apology? Do you want HOA reform? Or do you just want your driveway to stay clear? I want the HOA to stop abusing its power. Bethany has been targeting residents she doesn't like for months. I'm not the only one. This needs to change. Samantha and I spend the morning drafting a proposal. It's simple. 1. The HOA will remove all shipping containers from residential access areas and conduct proper surveys before placing any storage on community property. 2. The HOA Board will issue a formal written apology to all residents who were impacted by the container placement without proper notice. 3. The HOA Board will implement new governance procedures, including transparent board meetings, proper notice requirements, and an appeals process for violations. 4. If these terms are met, Westland Properties will renew the HOA's office lease at current rates for another 3 years. The alternative, if these terms are not met within 30 days, the lease will not be renewed, and the HOA will need to find new office space. That afternoon, I receive an email from Bethany's attorney agreeing to a meeting. Friday afternoon, 2 p.m. Neutral location, a conference room at a local business center. 2 days to prepare. And in those 2 days, something interesting happens. My neighbors start reaching out. I get emails, phone calls, people stopping me on the street. Turns out I'm not the only one who's been dealing with Bethany's power trips. Mrs. Anderson down the street got fined $200 because her rose bushes extended 2 inches over her property line into the sidewalk. The Battels got cited for having too many cars because their college-aged son came home for the summer. The Johnsons were threatened with legal action because their mailbox was painted the wrong shade of black. By Thursday evening, I've got testimonials from 12 different homeowners, all documenting Bethany's selective enforcement and personal vendettas. This isn't just about my driveway anymore. This is about cleaning up a corrupt HOA board. Friday at 2 p.m., I walk into the conference room at the business center. Samantha is already there, setting up her laptop. Bethany arrives 10 minutes late with her attorney, a nervous-looking man in his 50s named Gerald. Bethany's wearing a conservative business suit instead of her usual yoga gear. She's trying to project professionalism, but her eyes are exhausted. Gerald starts with standard lawyer pleasantries. Then, Mr. Reynolds, my client deeply regrets the inconvenience caused by the shipping container placement. The HOA is prepared to offer a formal apology and ensure such incidents don't occur in the future. I respond, that's a good start, but I want specifics. How exactly will you ensure this doesn't happen again? Bethany jumps in, her voice tight. James, look, mistakes were made. The board moved quickly on the shipping company partnership and we didn't properly vet the placement locations. But the containers are moved. Your driveway is clear. Can't we just move forward? I pull out documents and slide them across the table. These are documented complaints from 12 homeowners in our community. Each one details selective enforcement, excessive fines, and personal targeting by the HOA board under your leadership. Mrs. Anderson was fined $200 for rose bushes. The Patels were harassed about their son's car. The Johnsons were threatened with legal action because their mailbox was painted the wrong shade of black. And I've been dealing with citations and violations for 18 months, culminating in you blocking my driveway with shipping containers. This isn't about one incident, Bethany. This is about a pattern of abuse. I'm enforcing community standards. That's my job as HOA president. Your job is to serve the community, not rule it like a dictatorship.
By summer, we're having a neighborhood block party, the first one in years where people actually want to attend, not feel obligated to show up. I'm standing by the grill, flipping burgers, watching kids play in the street, neighbors laughing and talking. This is what a community should feel like. Not fear of citations, not walking on eggshells around petty tyrants, just people living their lives. One of my neighbors, Karen, who used to be firmly in Bethany's camp, walks up. "James, I owe you an apology. I thought you were just being difficult. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten." "Don't worry about it. We all want the same thing, a nice place to live. We just had different ideas about how to get there." "Well, thank you. My daughter's moving back home next month, and I was dreading dealing with the HOA. Now I don't have to worry." That's the real victory right there. Not humiliating Bethany, not flexing my leverage as a landlord, but creating a community where people don't have to live in fear of their own HOA. Bethany thought blocking my driveway would put me in my place. Instead, it put the entire HOA board in check, all because she never bothered to ask who she was really dealing with. Sometimes justice takes exactly as long as it takes for a bully to pick the wrong target. Sometimes the quiet guy 3 doors down isn't so powerless after all. And sometimes the landlord you don't know you have is the one holding all the cards. Remember, before you block someone's driveway, maybe check if they're the person signing your lease. Those shipping containers taught Bethany Morrison a very expensive lesson. Power means nothing if someone else owns the ground you're standing on.